Education literally translates as indoctrination. When you are educated, you are simply being indoctrinated. There is a set curriculum by which they wish to educate you. That curriculum is dictated usually by your government. That's the real problem with education, is that you're not actually learning about the world. You're being told how the world is from the perspective of the people who are currently in control of you, namely your government. And that's what education really is to me. A way of ensuring that people cannot be creative, cannot be independent, instead trained to regurgitate things that they hear without any thought entering the equation whatsoever. You are not being trained to think. You are being trained to accept. You are being trained to regurgitate. You are being engineered into a worker who does not question his employer, a student that does not question his teacher. This is why we have a dumbed down population today. We're so dumb, not in spite of the fact, but because of the fact that we've all been educated.
Training. That's what does it. And training starts in the school each day in the good American way.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. And it's really not creepy to have little kids mindlessly recite this anthem every day and pledge their life to a government before they're old enough to really think about what they're saying. This is not a form of brainwashing. This is really the greatest country in the whole world. All the other countries suck. And if this country ever goes to war, as it often wants to do, I promise to help go and kill all the other countries' kids. God bless Johnson & Johnson. God bless GE. God bless Citigroup. Amen.
The purpose of the education system in Western democracies, and indeed all over the world today, is to change children away from their own creativity and sense of wonder, and to help them streamline their own consciousness with the bureaucratic system. In other words, to make them bureaucratic robots. This will help streamline their involvement and their participation while engaging with corporate and political structures by having the child learn things that are completely useless to them, such as logarithms, algebra, compound fractions, and other statistical nonsense. The reason why they learn them is for that function of diminishing the right brain and making the analytical left brain dominant. When you have a brain that's analytically driven, it's more likely to acquiesce to authority figures and control systems and methods. It's less likely to think for itself. It's akin to a charioteer with one wheel larger than the other, trying to steer the chariot as it moves. It's always compensating for the lack of one wheel being smaller. The same thing with a diminished right brain. The child will spend its life trying to compensate for the reduction in cognitive functioning within their right brain. So they give over their consciousness to control figures and to authority figures and systems. While the child is learning about statistical ideas such as logarithms and algebra, subjects such as poetry and art are played down. When we learn about poetry in school, the child is never ever really given the understanding of the underlying metaphors within the words of the poems. They'll know more about the poet's history, his life story, and great detail will be given to the structure of the poem, but very little will be given to the actual underlying meaning of the syntax. If this was done, it would only make the right brain more effective. So therefore the arts are structured and presented in such a way that they're analytical and they're more likely to be seen as left-brain concepts, even though they should be right-brained. Again, this helps the child understand that they cannot function without authority figures. And the first one they learn about is the school teacher, and this goes on for the rest of their lives.
I don't believe that political action is going to do it for us. I think that political action has been tried for about, even if we get rid of the ancient Rome and ancient Greece examples, 300 or 400 years, people have been trying to use politics to restrain and control the state. It never works. The state just gets bigger and bigger, faster and faster. I mean, if we couldn't control the state in 1800 when it was about 1/20th the size it is now, we sure as hell aren't going to control and contain it now, right? So I don't think political action is going to do it. I think what's going to do it, and this is not just an opinion, there's some pretty good science behind it. What is going to do it is raising children without aggression. Right? Raising children without violence, without spanking, without hitting, without threats, without yelling, without abuse, without all this kind of stuff, right? And this is a pretty terrible situation at the moment. I mean, why do we have a violent society? Why do we have a society where people accept coercion as a rational way of getting people to do stuff? Because that's how it works in the home. Over 90% of parents still hit their children to get them to do what they want. So of course those kids grow up and say, well, yeah, someone threatens me with violence to get me to do the right thing. That makes perfect sense, because that's how I grew up for the first 15, 18, 20 years of my life, right? I mean, that's the language you speak. It's like speaking English, right? You grow up and you don't even think of it as speaking English in a way. That's just language, right? And so if you raise children with aggression, and this is parents, majority of parents, this is priests with their threats of hell and sin and bonfires forever, and it's public school teachers who punish, it's your peers who threaten with humiliation and so on. We're just so steeped in this way of doing things that says, do what I say, or I'm going to do really nasty stuff to you in one way or another, or spank you or threaten you with hellfire or humiliate you in school or whatever. And so when the kids come out into adulthood and they're like, the teacher gets replaced with the policeman, or the priest gets replaced with the politician, you know, do this or you're bad, and do this or you go to jail, or do this or whatever, right? Well, it's like, it's perfectly natural to them because that's how they're raised. But if you raise children without that hierarchical aggression, without punishment, without threats, I mean, they'll grow up and it'll be like, the state will start threatening them, be like, what the hell are you doing? I don't even speak this language. I don't know what you're saying, but it's not right. And I mean, look, I've been doing this. I've been a stay-at-home dad for almost 3 years now. And my daughter never hit her, never threatened her, never raised my voice at her, never called her a name. There's no need for it whatsoever. And she is, the happiest, smartest, and very obedient, because we have mutual respect rather than threats of punishment. And that's the best thing that people can do. Raise their own kids or intervene in situations where you see children being harmed or threatened or aggressed against. That's the best thing. We can't save most people. I mean, their brains have been too futzed up by propaganda, but you can do within the sphere you can control, your own life, your own family, your own kids, your own parenting, the other kids that you know around you. You can do a lot, and I think that's the very best thing that we can do to bring about a free society.